All right, so we have Carlisle Kellam here, and anyone watching this has just watched the Comfort Farms trailer. I am fortunate because I've seen the whole documentary feature, and one thing I want to say to Carlisle to introduce him is, it's one thing that always happens at festivals is everyone, this is a really powerful documentary about a really powerful subject,
Hmm.
and everyone gets focused on the subject
Right.
because you did such a good job
Hmm.
uh, with what it's like to be in combat and then come home,
Hmm.
and then how Comfort Farms is helping with that problem.
Hmm.
And I want to focus a little bit of this Q&A on the fact that your filmmaking skills were outstanding,
Oh,
because
thank you.
people wouldn't find the subject, they wouldn't be so invested in the subject if it wasn't a
Uh,
well-made documentary.
I understand what you mean.
And film fest after film fest, everyone's like wants to
Right.
talk about the topic and talk about it's so great what they're doing and blah blah blah, and no one realizes it could have been poorly made and then you wouldn't care as much.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead and tell me a little bit about your filmmaking background and then what brought you to the subject, but your filmmaking background and how you pulled this project together.
Yeah. My filmmaking background, well, I guess I could say it started as an oil painter, if that makes any sense. Years ago, I started out as a painter. That's what I did. I became a professional mural artist, and then I went and finished my undergraduate degree in theater and English with a focus on writing and directing plays. Uh, Along the way, I studied a little bit of the technical. I felt like film was really, the kind of medium that would really help me to express things the way that I wanted to fully tell a story the way I wanted to tell it. And so somewhere along the line, I got involved in photography and became a commercial photographer, and developed my lighting skills and stuff, mostly with photography, because, photography is really the same thing, but it's not moving. I mean, there are variables that are
Well,
different.
photography is very documentary oriented, if it can be.
Well, I mean, just I'm talking, and with respect to lighting and composition, and a film's just moving photography in a sense, and then you add in, acting and directing and all those things. So I had this kind of roundabout way of studying all of these different things that gave me kind of like a film education when you put them all together. Um, and so then I got into doing like commercial type stuff. Um, Ended up creative director of a small production company in North Carolina. Did that for a little while, was making some shorts, and then eventually came upon this and made this. And that's kind of how it went.
Right. So this is your first feature documentary,
First feature.
and
Mm-hmm.
other projects had been had you dabbled in documentary a bit leading up to it.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
understand.
I just sort of I was asking with. By the way, you're not the first person who started with fine art and ended up in
Right. Yeah.
documentary who we've had through the festival.
Right.
I was just asking. So, were there any documentary shorts leading up to this one?
Well, yeah, most of everything that I've done in the past was focused on narrative. I've directed plays, written some plays. I was a founding member of a theater company in North Carolina. Everything kind of that I've been associated with or created was narrative, and I've always focused on narrative. I did one short documentary about a blind African-American chef, um, and that was it as far as documentary goes. And this just kind of came out of nowhere. It's not something I was out looking to do. And I originally was thinking about just doing a short to bring awareness because I really liked the idea of what they were doing. And I found some angles, and, it became a feature. And, I found an angle to take a feature in kind of an interesting direction.
Right. So then I guess go ahead and let me know how you, well, you can actually explain the mission of Comfort Farms if you want. Well, although everyone just watched the trailer, but if
Right.
you want, you can be a little more complete about it.
Well, Comfort Farms is a farm set up by a guy named John Jackson, who is a former Army Ranger who was 6 tours overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq, and saw a lot of heavy combat. Lost one of his best, or a close friend of his named Captain Kyle Comfort. And when he got back, he tried to commit suicide. And he kind of had an awakening that he wanted to find a way to help people, and he found that farming has a lot of parallels in a sense to combat. I mean, not as far as it can go, but it definitely it gives people a sense of some kind of accomplishment. It gives people something to do, a sense of serving again. His ultimate goal is to give veterans a chance to serve again. And so they do sustainable farming to try to provide food for the local community and those that can't afford it, and help try. His goal is ultimately to create a kind of a food system, or what he would like to see is a food system that's sustained by the community. So like COVID or something like this comes about, you don't have to worry about starving because you're growing your own food in your own community and this kind of thing. And on top of all that, yeah, it gives vets a way to come back and serve again and be around one another and engage in kind of like a clear-cut mission like they had before.
Yeah, and it ultimately really is something that's productive and positive and wonderful every
Right,
aspect. There's no here's the pluses and here's the minuses. I mean,
right,
it's helping the people working the farm, it's helping the people getting the food,
right,
it's sustainable farming.
right.
It's really touching the way they deal with the way they show respect for the animals themselves
Yeah,
at the time of
that's definitely,
slaughter. I think that was really,
it's a
I'm
big
glad you
part of it.
included it.
Yeah, well, it's a big part of it, and it's something that's definitely, in a sense, controversial for those of us who are not fans of, eating meat or and so forth and so on. But that said, really quickly, kind of ironically enough, um, one of the best conversations I had when I was filming this was with a vegan at Comfort Farms who spent a lot of time there and said, if people are going to eat meat, this is the way that I want them to do it, because you get to see your food, you get to see how it's slaughtered, you get to see what happens to it, and you can make a conscious decision if you think that's something that should or shouldn't be done. And on top of that, they do it in a very humane way. They pay deep respects to the animals, and they don't treat them cheaply, or there was a guy, Brian Kyzar, in the film who's from Louisiana, who has kind of a Native American approach to the whole thing. He's very much into thinking, these animals are what give us life, and it's a sacrifice, and that's kind of a theme running throughout the film, is sacrifice, whether it be veterans, combat, animals. I'm not comparing the two things, but it is kind of a parallel that runs throughout the whole thing. One of the angles that I tried to focus on.
For sure, for sure. And I think if more of our meat was sourced this way instead of
Right.
factory farms,
Sure.
because I know a lot of people turn vegan for the environmental reasons too. So
Well, no, that's exactly it. And
yeah,
one of their goals is to have people eat less meat. I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing. Is so that's one of the ironies of the whole thing, is like you see all this violence kind of around, the kind of the blood and gore of, and I try not to show too much of that, but you do see some around the slaughter of an animal and some other things. But on the other hand, that's, them trying to be really humane, and also a group of people who want people to eat less of it, but just eat better quality, well-treated
yeah,
meat.
yeah.
Um,
And I just
but
noticed I am letting you slip into talking about how what a wonderful program Comfort Farms is, and I'm not sure you said when you first encountered them and how you learned about them.
Oh, I learned about them. So a neighbor of mine had me go down there to take some photos for it was either a magazine or a blog or something like that, a culinary based deal. And I met John then, and it was suggested by this neighbor. She's like, "Hey, you should make a documentary about this." And I was like, I don't know. I don't, you know, because I was completely ignorant of all that surrounds PTSD and veterans issues myself. So I was like, I don't want to make another film about PTSD. There's so many of those out there right now. I don't see what I could add to the space. And then after talking to him, I realized, this isn't, first of all, just about PTSD. And even though PTSD is a real thing, it's only one of many things that veterans go through, and it's almost given too much emphasis, and a lot of veterans end up suffering because the PTSD treatments don't work for them. And really what they're searching for, they're a volunteer for, an all volunteer force. They go over there, they have a black and white mission, they come back, and a lot of them are simply almost bored. It's not, I wouldn't say bored, but just they feel no sense of purpose. And it's not that they have some serious mental condition, it's just they're used to having this big sense of purpose. And they're diagnosed with a mental condition sometimes when that's not the problem. So a place like this gives them a chance to have a mission again, and to serve their community, and do it in a way that's very hands-on, and out on a farm and doing heavy farm work, that kind of stuff. Dealing with things that are kind of dirty that a lot of other people don't want to deal with.
Which is what they were doing over there.
Yes, right.
So how was the filmmaking process for you? Did they welcome you in?
They did. They were very generous with their time, and I was really, really surprised at how kind of diverse the whole place was. I mean, it's just it's a melting pot, different kinds of, are all different kind of background, e.g., political persuasion, ideology, everything all coming together and forgetting about all that kind of stuff long enough to try to do something, and they were all extremely nice, extremely generous with their stories. There were a couple guys that didn't really want to go on camera, but yeah, they really they welcomed me with open arms as far as that goes.
Great. And you had a tight documentary crew? Because one thing is, it looks
Yes.
great. It must be your photography experience, because you never chose to shoot someone in a bad lighting situation. Everything, it's a really, you could pass it off as like, I had a 50-person crew and we were funded by, HBO.
Right. Well, that would be great, and I'm very, that's flattering to hear that, but no, it was a very, I did mostly everything, with the exception of, I had a couple PAs that were working with me. I had a sound guy that was, an on-set sound guy. I had, I had somebody do the post sound mixing.
But
Like
you would go in there every day. I have a friend who calls it a man with a cam.
That's me. Yeah, that's what I was.
Did you have a game plan of who you would talk to, and or did you just gather tons of stuff and then go back and figure it out in the editing room?
Well, it was a little bit of both. I had I kind of split it up into days. I had an interview day, and then I set up or 2 interview days, and I set up all the interviews in advance. I didn't ask them anything in advance. Nothing was prepared between me and any interview subjects. And went in, did the questions, kind of knocked the interviews out, not knowing what I was going to get. And then kind of went back and gained more B footage, as well as kind of filled in some of the gaps to kind of focus on the angle I was trying to take the film. Because I pretty quickly found an angle that I wanted to kind of, a way I wanted to document and tell the story, which is kind of a juxtaposition between 2 different kind of things that come together. I say to tell a story between the lines, but that might not make any sense. They,
No, I was gonna
yeah,
say, but you did the interview, 2 days of interviews, and
right.
then you got a feel for exactly how you were going to approach the rest of it.
Yeah, and then I kind of got a feel for it, and then I went back. I'm sorry, I kind of went off the rails there, but I
Yeah,
went
that was a good,
back, and
I think it was a good metaphor.
okay, and in the in the editing room, yes, I kind of took it and formed it, kind of sculpted it that way. I mean, I knew what I was doing, but I also knew that there were some things missing, and I slowly started to. I will say, as I met more and more characters at the farm, I started to um, add in elements, you know, and it did evolve. It did definitely evolve over time. And, you know, I went through so many different edits with this thing. I had one that was just a very linear, clear cut, you know, everything was introduced perfectly. And it, you know, more kind of like a Discovery Channel type of, you know, everything was,
Yeah, like something you
I
should
didn't like it.
pull.
I
Yeah.
didn't like it like that. And so I did it in a way that was risky, and there were some creative risks taken. And I've gotten mostly positive feedback from the film, but the negative feedback I get is really negative. It's like, why
Really?
didn't you have this guy speaking in the big, this John, you know what I mean? Why is it structured the way it is? And why did you do that? And
That's
so it's
interesting because I think one of the reasons why, and I told you before I started recording,
right.
we're talking about the Grand Jury Prize winner for Best Documentary, is
Oh, wow.
that,
Yeah.
I think because, and probably is your narrative instincts, but because you aren't just linear and aren't just here's the facts about something good, goodbye.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
because over the course of the hour, it the human emotion slowly grows and the knowledge
Exactly.
slowly
Yes.
grows,
Mhm.
and that just makes it a better film to watch, and I
I
think
think
it serves
so.
the
And that was my
subject better too.
Sure. And that was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I'm so, you know, I think the days of kind of this, I don't want to be too harsh, but kind of the stupid audience are over. You know, I mean, people don't need to be force fed everything anymore. You know, I mean, I think there's almost a way to tell a story that um, slowly suggests and implies things that it's not to say that this is totally an art film by any means, but there is some kind of expressionistic type of take on the environment there to create the whole, if that makes any sense.
For sure, and someone, you know, and a perfectly valid other approach would have been someone going in there, shooting a couple interviews, shooting the facts, and then, you know, just treating it like a PSA, you know.
Well, that's exactly what I didn't want to do.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly, and that would have been uh
boring,
valid,
I think.
but I think you made something better by, and I think by making something better, the
Right.
viewer's gonna cheer this thing on even more, and you know, there's hopes to replicate it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that that it's. I mean, I've tested it with a lot of people, and most everybody really, really liked it, and they liked the way it was shot. They liked some of the choices I made. You know, I shoot the interviews in an interesting way, very wide lenses and stuff like that. I mean, all of that stuff is purposeful. You know, I've been a photographer for years. I know what it's going to look like when I shoot somebody wide, when I shoot somebody with a telephoto and kind of shrink everything. And all that stuff was done on purpose to kind of create the intensity of what's going on there, and also to create a little bit of discomfort, because you know the interesting thing about Comfort Farms is it's called Comfort Farms, but it's really a place where people go to get out of their comfort zone, and I wanted to capture that in the way that I shot the movie.
For
um,
sure. I think you
so
did.
there's, oh good. I'm glad that I did. But it's one of those things, you know, people like it, and you know there are going to be some that don't, I'm sure, because of some of these things. You know, when you're not a famous filmmaker, you take some of these creative risks like this, and it's even more dangerous because it could easily be passed off as accidental or a lack of ability. And if that makes any sense
It
to
makes sense.
you.
I mean, someone, instead of seeing this as your choice,
Right.
they could see that whatever. There's
It's
cynics
not
all
knowing
over
what
the
you're doing.
place.
Exactly. Right. And there's some rough edits made purposefully in there. Some places where I let the camera kind of run wild and do some kind of jump cuts and stuff like that. But that's all part of documenting what I felt and saw when I was there. And
I think it's a success. I hope you're very proud of what
I'm very proud of it and very happy with it.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and I'm very happy that I chose to do it the way that I did it.
Yeah. And I hope that throughout the course of this year, are you near the beginning of your festival run of sorts, or?
No, we were accepted to a couple more that were postponed. I think that one of them was, they say postponed, but it'll probably never come about again. I mean, I think some of these people say they're postponed so they can keep, they can't afford to give everybody the money back.
Right.
But
said we're canceling. Yeah, if you're canceling the film festival entirely, then why do you get to keep the submission fees?
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I understand.
Well, but I was just trying to. I was leading. That was a leading comment to say that I really hope that this ends up with a bigger audience down the line, whether it's picked up by PBS or.
It's out for the script. I got a sales agent or a producer's rep that's out looking for distribution now. So it's definitely going to be out there. He's going to get a deal. How good the deal is, I have no idea, but it's going to get a deal of some sort. So it's definitely going to be out there streaming and everything.
Oh yeah, I know your producer's rep, I believe. I think
you probably do.
I think so. He's a good guy. I'm glad you're in good hands.
Right, yeah.
Not every producer's rep is reliable.
He's a really good guy. And, so and I got a publicist too that's working alongside, those efforts and all these efforts. So, we've kind of decided that with COVID and everything, the festival thing is we've kind of run our course.
Oops, you froze. Could be my internet, could be yours. A little freeze there.
Yeah. So yeah,
I have to wind it up because we're a little over, which is cool.
Sure.
No problem. But I have another one of these in 5 minutes. So
cool.
But thanks so much.
Absolutely.
It's always I often tell people, try sitting and watching like 500, 600, 700 films in a couple months. The good ones really make you happy. So thanks for giving me something great to watch.
That means so much. Just hearing that a couple times means enough to make the process worth it. So I really appreciate everything, all the kind words. And
great. Well, and I hope you're gonna do it again soon. If you I hope you find more projects that suit your artistic intentions, because you're definitely an artist.
Well, I'm doing it now, so
that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to